Thank you for joining us. This is Dolphin Project. We're live from the Cove in Taiji as a pod of dolphins is being driven in. They were right at the mouth of the cove, but I can't seem to see them at the moment. And I can hear the banging of the banger poles pretty loud. If you're just joining us on Facebook and you were watching the previous live stream, I do apologise. We were having some technical difficulties. I'm just gonna return back to the previous location to see if I can see what's happening. Our other cove monitors are still down there, so we'll just have a quick look. They appear to be struggling to net the dolphins in the cove. Oh, so they've just pulled the net across, which means the dolphin's fate is sealed now. Sorry to keep moving around. We have a very limited view here, so it's we just want to make sure we can get the best angle possible. So the first net has been strung across. The dolphins are very, very close to the net, and the branches are obstructing our view, so we can't quite see them at the moment. If you're just joining us, this is Dolphin Project. We're live from the Cove in Taiji as a pod of dolphins is being driven in. We're still waiting to get confirmation on the species, but as soon as we get an ID, we'll let you know. We don't have a count on the amount of dolphins yet. We'll have to review our footage later. It's quite difficult to count them from up here. But we'll be posting that in a full report later this afternoon. So these two skiffs seem to be waiting for something. So the first net has been pulled across, but the hunters appear to be waiting for something. They're now starting to rev their engines to intimidate the dolphins. There they are, you can see them. So this pod was initially much larger when we first spotted the dry formation, but the majority of the pod managed to escape. They're now beginning to pull across the second net. Pushing the dolphins closer towards the cove, towards the beach. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know this isn't easy to see. The dolphins are extremely confused and disorientated. They would have never been in such shallow water before. I'm sure you can see the water is actually pretty choppy this morning. We've had quite bad weather here in Taiji for the last few days, and the boats haven't even gone out. But this morning they went for it and unfortunately found this pod of dolphins. The dolphins actually managed to swim behind that second net that was pulled across. They've just appeared behind the hunters, but the hunters did notice and are trying to push them back towards the beach again. So once these dolphins are netted in and their fate is sealed, they'll either endure the captive selection process or be slaughtered for their meat. There are no trainers in the cove just yet, so this could mean that the dolphins will be slaughtered today, but there's still time for them to arrive, so we'll just keep you updated. These dolphins are really putting up a fight and trying to escape the hunters and try and get away from them, but the hunters are relentless and they'll keep going until they get their way. So they've managed to push them closer and closer towards the beach. So we've just had a quick look at our footage and we can confirm that this is a pod of melon-headed whales. This is the third time they've been driven into the cove this season. And it's the last 3 red coves that we've had have been melon-headed. In the first drive, there was 3 that were captured, and we've since located them in the pens at the Taiji Whale Museum, and the other 37 dolphins were slaughtered. And the second drive there were 20 individuals and they were all slaughtered for their meat. There are no trainers here at the moment, so this could mean another slaughter, but it's not 100% clear yet. The quota for melon-headed whales, though, this season is 200. So another skiff's just arrived. They've got some divers on there and more of the hunters, but none of them are trainers. These dolphins look exhausted. They have spent the last hour at least swimming for their lives. Every single melon-headed drive that there's been so far, the pod started off much larger, but only a portion of the pods have made it into the cove. Again, I do apologise for the plants and the branches. There's absolutely nothing we can do about moving them or chopping them down. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you've just started watching, this is Dolphin Project, and we're live as a pod of melon-headed whales has been driven into the cove. This appears to be a smaller pod than the last two drives, but we can't get an exact count at the moment. But we'll review our footage and post a report later today of the events. So we have spotted a few juveniles in this pod. In the last two melon-headed drives, the juveniles were slaughtered along with the rest of their family members. The pod are huddling really close together. You can see them rubbing up against themselves, each other. They're just behind those branches at the moment. So they're starting to pull the tarps across the killing beach. The hunters hide everything that they do here in the cove, whether it's a capture or a slaughter. But they still claim that this is their tradition and their culture. But why would they be hiding it if it was? They should be proud of their culture. So the hunters are revving their engines towards the dolphins. They're really trying to intimidate them more, and they're just terrorizing them. This is an extremely stressful environment for the dolphins, who are used to swimming wild and free in the ocean. Again, I do apologise about the plants. There's nothing we can do about our view being obstructed. You can hear the hunters shouting at one another. These dolphins really haven't gone without a fight this morning. You can already hear some thrashing. These dolphins are extremely stressed out. The hunters are just trying to push them closer and closer towards the killing beach. Since no trainers have arrived, this indicates that the dolphins will be slaughtered. And the third net is being pulled across. So there's still a dolphin that's in between those nets. They didn't notice that it hadn't been pushed in with the rest of its family. There are dolphins getting stuck in the nets now. Just bear with me. These dolphins are getting caught in the nets, and they're extremely stressed out. If you're just joining us, this is Dolphin Project. We're live from the Cove as a pod of melon-headed whales has been netted in. The quota this season for melon-headed whales is 200, and so far a total of 60 dolphins have been stolen from the ocean. 3 of them were taken for a life in captivity, and the other 57 have been slaughtered. There are no trainers at the Cove at the moment, so it's pointing in the direction of being a slaughter this morning. So you can see a dolphin struggling in the nets. There's one dolphin that's really trying to fight for its life. Keeps getting tangled in the nets and throwing itself towards the rocks. As I said, these dolphins are really putting up a fight. It's an absolute crime that they're being stolen from their homes in the ocean. There's one dolphin just outside of that net there, getting stuck, throwing itself from the rocks. The dolphin that was just throwing itself at the rocks has got cuts and scratches all over its rostrum. These dolphins really aren't going without a fight this morning. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to see. After the last two melon-headed slaughters, Cove monitors saw their meat being sold in supermarkets. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please do share this live stream. We're live on both Facebook and Twitter this morning. And if you're not already, please follow Dolphin Project on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're here on the ground in Taiji for 6 months of the year, for the whole season that dolphins are hunted. The hunters are pulling up the nets now. So all the dolphins at the moment are under the, which is the beige material you can see just through the bushes. So dolphin meat isn't even eaten very much in Japan. It's sold in local supermarkets and restaurants. But elsewhere in Japan, people don't even know that this is happening. Dolphin meat is extremely high in mercury, which can cause mercury poisoning, which is very dangerous, can cause hearing loss, sight loss. It's not healthy to eat. And not many people eat it anyway. So it's barbaric that these hunts are still happening. But as I mentioned, it's the captivity industry that fuels these drives, as live dolphins can be sold for so much money. So the chirping you can hear is just the birds. It's not the noises that the dolphins are making. But the hunters are removing all the nets now, so this indicates that the slaughter is nearly over. can still hear some thrashing from under the tarps. I'll stay quiet so you can hear. So after 10 blue cove days, today is unfortunately a red cove. So one question we get a lot is, why can't we intervene? Why can't we go and cut the nets and free the dolphins? But this is because we'd just be arrested. The hunts here are completely legal. The fishermen union has a quota for hunting dolphins. For melon-headed whales, this is a quota of 200 animals. And so far 57 have been slaughtered and 3 taken for a life in captivity, but those numbers will go up today. This pod of dolphins just moments ago was swimming wild and free in the ocean, but now they've just been reduced to slabs of meat. They're just preparing skiffs to remove the bodies from the cove now and take them to the butcher house. We don't have an accurate count of how many dolphins there were, but we'll review our footage and post it later on our social media accounts. So do keep an eye on those. We really appreciate you joining us this morning. We're live on both Facebook and Twitter. So if you have profiles on both platforms, then please do share on both. If you want to find out more about what happens here in Taiji, you can read our FAQs on our website, dolphinproject.com. And there's also a take action link on the homepage, so you can find out more ways that you can help us and support our work here in Taiji, and how you can help dolphins around the world. So a skiff is leaving with dead bodies now. So the first skiff has left the cove with dead bodies. The slaughter was over extremely quickly this morning. Even though these dolphins really fought hard, unfortunately, they lost their lives today. You can see the dead bodies of the dolphins just floating. Floating lifeless next to the skiff. They'll now be dismembered and sold in supermarkets. So that's the second skiff leaving with the dead bodies of the melon-headed whales who have just been slaughtered. The tarps are still across the beach at the moment, so we'll just hold on to see if any more boats leave with bodies. But unfortunately every single member of this pod was slaughtered today, including the juveniles. These dolphins really struggled and fought for their lives today. They tried their hardest to escape the hunters, but eventually were just too exhausted. Even still, they attempted to escape once the third net had been pulled across. There were several of them getting caught in the nets and throwing themselves on the rocks. So just to summarise, a pod of melon-headed whales was driven into the cove this morning. They were found at about 7:45. Just 2 hours later, they no longer exist. We've had 10 Blue Cove days recently in a row, yesterday being the 10th, but unfortunately today is a Red Cove day. The hunters are starting to pull back the tarps, suggesting that there are no dolphins left under the tarps on the beach. So just 2 skiffs left with bodies. We're unsure of quite how many dolphins at the moment, but we'll review our footage and post it on our social media later. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do share this live stream and spread the word to not go to a dolphin show or visit any facility that holds dolphins captive. The Coast Guard is now leaving the Cove, which means the process is over. So I'll round off this live stream now. But just to summarise, a pod of melon-headed whales were driven in this morning. It was originally a much larger pod, but a lot of them managed to get away. A portion of them though weren't so lucky and were driven into the cove pretty quickly. A lot of them struggled and they tried to escape several times, throwing themselves against the rocks and getting tangled in the nets. But unfortunately every single one of them was slaughtered under the tarps this morning. We'll review our footage and we'll be posting an update later today. We'll let you know how many melonheads were slaughtered today. But thank you so much for joining us. Please do share this live stream and keep an eye on our social media, and head to dolphinproject.com to find out more ways that you can get involved by hitting the Take Action link. Thank you.